Welcome to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast on Midwave Radio and all podcast platforms. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer with an online program and would like to find out how to grow your business whilst having fun podcasting, go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. Let's dive into today's episode.
So welcome to the show. And today we have the lovely Hilary DeCesare, who is a neuro performance master coach. And we're going to be talking about how to relaunch even when you're a midlifer. And I am your host, Karen Roberts, helping experts just set up, launch and grow their podcast to turn them into a sales machine. Now, Hilary is an award-winning neuro performance mindset mastery expert and business coach. She is renowned for her unique fusion of neuroscience, modern personal development techniques, and ancient wisdom through her proprietary 3HQ framework. She's an international best-selling author. She is also a podcaster in the top 2% with her The Relaunch podcast. And she also co-hosts on TV's Wake Up with Marcy and Hilary. So Hilary, thank you so much for being here.
Karen, I love the energy right now. This is so good. And it literally is making my day that I'm here right now.
Awesome. So first of all, to get started, if you'd like to share with the listeners a little bit about the inspiration that was behind your idea of helping midlifers relaunch and create their lifestyle success in not just business, but life and relationships.
Well, I think that we can all agree that when you get into what I call the midlifer, the mid zone, and I love that Brene Brown said the midlife is 35 until you're dead. So it might be where we all are right now, okay? But I love the idea of looking at life through a different lens. And the lens that I have always looked at it from is we are going to have transitions. We are going to, like, life is about relaunches. And when I first started out in the Silicon Valley as a corporate gal for almost 10 years, high-tech giant Oracle, I always felt like there was something, even though I was super successful, there was something missing. Something wasn't connecting. And it was always about what's your quota, what you've done, what have you done for me today? And I thought, it's very head-based, very much like all about steps, procedures, processes. And I felt that divine disconnect. There's a disconnect. And I ended up leaving, and I had, multiple children, 3 kids. And during this time of transition, what I call relaunch, I ended up getting divorced. So I had these 3 little kids. I'm launching other businesses. I decided to take on almost $10 million of actual investment dollars in one of my companies. I was flying all over the world. And I'm like, wow. On the surface, things look really good. But inside, I was still feeling like, what is going on with me? What is wrong with me? I should be super happy right now. I should be like loving my life. I have what was perceived a lifestyle success. And then it hit me. And I started to dive deep into neuroscience. I was already I had a psychology degree. I had obviously the years and years of traditional business training and coaching, and I had been in management and I had done all of that. And I started to think the old way of business wasn't serving me, which was all about, IQ. Remember the 50s, 60s, 70s, IQ was everything. And then in the 90s, it started to be about EQ. What was the emotional quotient that you were carrying? And it was kind of like, if you're going to be a really good leader, you got to bring in the heart. But it was like, how do you do that? If I started to talk about like, I've got this intuitive sense that this deal is going to close, I mean, they'd be like, you are crazy. And so I started, there was the movie or the book, The Secret, and there was a guy in the book, John Assaraf. And I decided I'm going to test my theory on, does this law of attraction, does this actually work? And so I put on a piece of paper and I said, all right, I want to meet this guy. I want to meet him in the next 6 weeks. I want to be one of his top coaches that he has this highest level coaching program. I want to be one of those coaches that coaches his CEOs that are, killing it out there. And I said, one more step. And this is what I would actually coach people on. And I wrote it down very quickly. I put it in, my pocket, and I kind of went through the next 6 weeks. Nothing happened, nothing. And all of a sudden, I'm in San Diego. I'm walking into this hotel, and there is John Assaraf. I'm not kidding when I say it is 6 weeks to the day. And so, of course, I am like, it's like seeing a celebrity, right? And you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And you know them, but they have no idea who you are. And so I walked up and I said, I'm Hilary DeCesare. I am so excited. I did the law of attraction, but I did one extra step. I'm going to be one of your top coaches. You're going to bring me in as like, a keynote, all this stuff. He looked at me and starts laughing. First off, he's like, thank God, because I looked at you, you acted like you knew me, and I couldn't, remember what, who this was, who's this crazy woman. And so I ended up working with him, and lo and behold, yes, it did happen that he invited me in to be this, speaker. And so it set me on a different trajectory. I started to work with John. I did, I think I've worked with him for over 10 years. He's a dear friend of mine now. And he taught me a lot of the behind the scenes on the neuroscience on what's going on. But I always had this like, okay, there's more here. And whether you're God based or you have a different type of God, or whether your universe is leading you, you have to realize there's something bigger than you. And that's what I always say to my clients. I'm like, listen, if you think you're the end all, I'm not your girl. But if you have all these different relaunches, your, health relaunches, unfortunately, I've had melanoma, I've had the divorce, I've had an actual board member do a Ponzi scheme with my company. I've had a near-death experience. I mean, I could go on and on, death in the family, like so many grandparents being killed in an automobile crash. It was like, I kept getting hit at the knees. And I finally said to myself, there's got to be, when they say, when you're in hell, just keep moving forward, right? But I thought there's got to be a better way than feeling like I'm just in hell. Like, what is this? And that's when the relaunch concept was born.
Wow.
I hope that wasn't too much, because it's like, oh, there's a big story.
No. I absolutely love that. And it's, The Secret, I would say, had a massive impact on my life too. When I moved to the Algarve, Portugal back in, oh my goodness, Ella was 4. So 2003. And I wasn't really aware of John Assaraf from, before the film. I was following Bob Proctor.
Sure.
And I'd done one of his trainings. So I knew it was about to come out. It was going to come out originally as a sort of documentary, and I'd pre-ordered the DVD. And one of Bob Proctor's,
love that.
Yeah. So one of the coaches had called. Obviously now I know it was a sales call. I wasn't in a position to purchase the coaching program, but I said I'd pre-ordered The Secret. And he gave me possibly the best piece of advice I've ever had. He said, there's so much depth to that film. Watch it twice a day for a month. And my initial reaction was, you are crazy. I haven't watched any film 60 times, but hang on a minute. You're there, I'm here in a new country with nothing. Maybe I should listen. And I would definitely 100% say if it wasn't for that, I would not have opened my fitness studio, Fitbod, then.
I
Yeah,
literally just got chills.
that I honestly, I put it all down to that.
Mm.
There's no way I would have had the confidence to go out and get investment for it or anything. I would have just, okay, we can't do this sort of thing. However, okay, we did have it and it was great for 8 years, but as I shared on your podcast the other week, I left the fitness industry because it wasn't a sustainable business. So I absolutely love that because I'm a true believer in all of this. I know I haven't got it down to an art as yet because it's very easy to slip back into old habits, but I'm so open to it. And that tops it. To have that as a goal and to do it in that time frame, so many people misunderstand what it's about. Do you not think? What would you say to people who sort of dismiss the law of attraction and you've just shared something that it's worked with? I've just shared something. So what is it that people are missing?
So I've often said now, who knew woo could be so good for you? Why? Why not try it? Why not become a master in it? What's the downside? And I'm laughing because as you said that, when I wrote a book, it's called Relaunch, Spark Your Heart to Ignite Your Life. And it came out a couple of years ago. But during the process, I was in a very formal course to write a book. It took a year. Again, this is the law of attraction. I said before it was introduced to this professor who's at Georgetown, I said to myself, you know what? I want to learn the ins and outs of writing a book because I know it's not going to be my only book. So what happened? Sure enough, I get, introduced to the professor at Georgetown. I joined this program. I learn the ins and outs of writing a book that it was painful for me. I mean, I sat at my desk for I can't even tell you how many hours. But during the writing of it, one of my editors, I had written law of attraction in the book. And remember, this was a very academic type of course I was taking. And I got pushback on, well, what law of attraction? Who developed that? Where did that start? And I'm like, what? Well, we need to know the law of, Newton's law, the law of gravity. We know where that came from, but where did the law of attraction? And I'm like, what? So I go and I try to, Google it and I try to find out, where did this start? And it's these are universal laws. Well, then this guy's like, well, okay, universal laws, what are those? Where did they come from? I'm like, oh my God. It was one of these moments that I thought, you know what? Times are changing. Things are shifting. I want to get out of left brain thinking I was being, told I need to have a site of, site this, site that, all this stuff. And I said, I want to go into the next wave of where business, of where life, personal development is going. And that's when I started to dive deep into hearing stories about people and the success and how the brain really follows you. The reticular activation system, the RAS in your brain, you often have heard don't hit the pole, and you hit the pole, right? Well, what's going on there? Well, the same thing as don't hit the pole can be around, I want to have a business that I'm scaling, and by the end of the year, I want to be 7 figures. It's the same idea behind it. And so I mentioned the IQ, EQ, and I started to really embrace the fact that things are changing. They are. And again, everyone, I came out of corporate tech. I mean, we're talking there was nothing around heart, highest self. And the way I describe highest self is really this best version of you, where you're in your great zone. You are this is where I want to spend a majority of my time. So what I did was I created from IQ, EQ, I created something called 3HQ, which is the headquarters of you, but there's three components. There's your head, there's your heart, and there's the highest self. And without literally using all three, and you go in and out, right? How many times are we stuck in our head, right? It's all like, get out of your thoughts, get into your heart. And then all of a sudden something happens and it bounces you back into your head. And then how the heck do you get to that highest self so that even if you're going through a relaunch, a transition, even if there is the need to be resilient, right? You've still, let's say you're going through a divorce, but you're still trying to run a company. You can't be caught in your head over I can't get out of my own way. You still have to run a company, right? You still have to run your business. So I came up with this incredible process to help people stay in their head, in their heart, but in a positive way. And it started to be like this uncovered secret that people are like, oh my God, I've never thought of it this way. This is a brand new way to start to have success. And what happened, I talk lifestyle of success. It's interesting. And I've worked with people from startup, they've got zero revenue, to a client of mine sold his business for 250 million. And afterwards, I was brought in by a venture capital firm because this guy was just miserable in his new role. And I said, what was the main reason that you wanted to sell the business? And he said, well, I've always wanted, since I was little, to sell the business. And I wanted it to be 250 million or more. I'm like, okay, great, because that's what happened. I said, but what else? He's like, I didn't put any parameters around it. So I said, so where are you right now in your lifestyle success? He says, yeah, I got this money and I have no relationship with my wife and my kid won't talk to me. So I said, well, when you got the money, what was the dream? He said, I wanted to sail around the world. I said, okay, have you sailed? Have you done any of that? He's like, I don't like sailing. And this is the key. This is what's so important, Karen. We think we want one thing. We think our life will be a certain way by the, time we're midlifers. And then all of a sudden, you heard me say earlier, there was this disconnect, and I call it the divine disconnect. There's a disconnect with where you are, what you want. And as soon as we link them back together, and in the book, I call it, the manifestation magnet. And when you have those magnets coming together and not repelling, it's like Velcro and Teflon, right? We want things to come together, not just be slipping off. We want this to be your future. And so I feel the luckiest woman alive because I get to help this, there's so much around, Gen X and, oh my God, we're irrelevant. What is coming for us? The younger millennials are taking over. AI is taking over. I'm not tech savvy. And I'm like, what if your best part of your book, your chapter, ends up being your midlife? What would that do for you? How would that look? And that's what I get to do every single day.
Amazing.
It really is. Like I'm sitting here, I'm like, yes. Yeah, that's me. That's my life.
And it is, I still struggle with all of this because on a conscious level, in my head, I know it is as it is. And it is always at times when I call it my unthinking. I feel like I need to practice my unthinking for the things to sort of, the ideas to come up or for me to be in flow. And somehow I always say, I could just find a way to sort of dance between the two. Because, we need to think about things because there's stuff to do, right? But actually it is during, or what I have found is definitely when I, after periods of time when I've practiced my unthinking and got out of my head and into my heart, that is when things have flown. But we all get sort of distracted, and it's very easy to get complacent. Like, I've got to admit, I've been doing my meditating for a while, and I really notice the change when I'm not trying to combine these sort of three elements. So, what is your actual process? How can people get to manifest the lifestyle that they're looking for?
So first I want to say, unfortunately, I am going to say something that nobody wants to hear, but a relaunch, if you're not in one right now, it's coming. That's life. You're going to have things hit in your business, in your personal life, relationships. And right now, if you think about the relaunches that are happening globally, we got global relaunches, you've got business relaunches, you've got personal relaunches. Some of you might have, all three that are going on right now, depending on where you're listening to this. And so it's inevitable that something's going to happen. And I have to tell you, I'm going through a massive relaunch right now with a family member. And I'm in and out of rehab and different things that are happening. And it's just so challenging. But my life, my business has to keep going, right? I'm not at a place where I can be like, I'm just, I'm done. I'm going to put this on the table and I'm going to go do 100% of that. And so what I want to share with you is I mentioned 3HQ, head, heart, highest self. And there's a lot behind it. And we could talk, it's courses and courses, that we could go into. And it's so incredible. But I always like to say, everybody likes that silver bullet. Everybody wants the fast, quick fix. And I'm the first one to say, during the day, you may need a very fast, energetic, I need to elevate myself before I go on a call, before I go on a podcast, before I go on a show. You said, I'm a co-host on a morning show. Life is still operating around me, but how can I show up as my best version of me? Hard, right? Except that when you know this success on demand, that you have it within you. So you can call on it at any time. And the best part is I took 3HQ, I made it super, super simple in the tune in process. Okay, it's called Tune In. 4 steps, 4 easy steps. And Karen, I would love to take you through it if you're game so that people can really understand what is involved and I can coach you through it.
Absolutely. I'm open to it.
Okay. So here's the thing. Before I start, I want us to think about a quote from Albert Einstein. And when I first heard it, my eyes rolled and I said, what the heck does that even mean? I didn't even understand the quote. And it's literally, you can't solve a problem at the conscious level it was created. Can't solve a problem at the conscious level it was created. Again, my eyes rolled back. I was like, I don't get it. I studied and I tried to put it through 3HQ and I finally got it. That if you are stuck, overwhelmed, underwhelmed, feeling the stress of life and relaunches, we need to get at a higher vibrational level. You hear about like the vibe of your tribe, right? And it's so overused, but there's such relevancy in that statement. We want to be operating at a vibration because everything is energy. Everything is energy. Science has proven that. So that means our emotions are energy. And if the vibration of an emotion of being stuck or stressed, which is low, 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 you can't actually move things forward unless you bounce yourself up to that higher level. Make sense?
100%. I'm with you there.
Okay. So what I want to ask you again, 4 steps, and I'm not going to go into a lot of the neuroscience. There's so much goodness here, but based on time, I'm just going to give you the high level so people can start to use it right away. Best part, every single person that's listening right now, you can become a master at it. and you don't need to do anything but just use it in your life as often as possible, 2 minutes or less. So step one is I want you to think about, Karen, what is a challenge that's going on in your life right now? Business, life, what kind of challenge do you have?
Yeah, I would say my business, because I focus, as you know, on podcasters, is that the people I'm getting, there's a long process for them to come to the decision to actually do it because, well, you know this. There's a lot to think about when launching a podcast. Like a lot of other coaches might be in a position when people are ready to buy, they're ready to buy now. Whereas with podcasting, there's a lot of thought that's got to go into it. And so it seems to be a longer sales process than I've had with anything else that I've done before.
Okay, so let's just stop right there. First off, I wish we had another hour because I'd love to coach you on the limiting belief that's around this right now. But I'm going to jump in and say number one is your challenge is long sales process. Takes a long time to bring somebody into your program. Okay, super easy. There we have it. Now, step number two is where we actually change the channel. Change the channel. And so what we want to do is when you think about long sales process, if we were to put in actually have you go under with a scan, it would show that you're at a lower vibrational. It's a challenge for you, right? There's something there that is heavy about it, right? Even hearing you, I could feel energetically there's a heaviness. So what we want to do in order to change the channel is I need to bounce you up very quickly. And the way I do that is with a power song. There's so much behind music. And when I ask you, what is a song that when you hear it, Karen, it lights you up? You can't be low vibrational energy. When you hear it, you're like, yeah, I am like high vibration. And given, your background in fitness, what's that song?
Oh, it's whether people have ever heard of this, but who knows? It's called Believe.
Okay.
And Believe.
Okay. Who sings it? Do you know?
I don't know who sings it. I know the DJ who made it.
Okay. But this is awesome. So again, I want you to hear the song. We're on a podcast right now. We're on a show, so we can't play it out loud because they would, shut it down after 15 seconds or shorter. And so what you can do, and science has shown that to change your state, you can listen to it in your head. You can play it out loud, but here's the key. We must do it for at least 20 seconds. You must think about it, having it elevate you. So I want you to take the song Believe, and I want you to have it come in through the top of your head, have it go all the way to your feet, move your body. We're changing the state as you're thinking about this song. Now, if we weren't on camera right now, you could do this with your phone. You could be dancing around. 20 seconds is all you need. It's incredible. So now I want to see it. I want to see you do this right now, Karen. I'm looking at you. I don't know if everyone else is, but come on. Yeah, she's got her hand up. She's jamming. She's smiling. Like you can feel it happening right now. Okay? Take it all the way down. Oh my gosh. And there's something magnificent happening right now. There are neurotransmitters that are going through your body that are huge for you. That's another conversation. I can come back later and do another one on that. But here we go. So now that's step two, right? You had, what is your biggest challenge? Step one. What is your power song? Taking it through your body for 20 seconds. Now we go to step three. And step three is where we now create you being the star of your mini movie. We're talking like Academy Award right here, right now. I want you to visualize yourself on stage. Think of your power song again. And I want you to either see yourself wearing a color or you're seeing something out in the audience. What is that color?
Oh, pink.
Pink. I want you to is it pale pink? Is it
No, it's bright pink, shocking pink.
shocking pink? I want you to make it even more shocking. I want you to hear the song, see the color, intensify it, move through your body. How are you feeling emotionally right now? What are the things that are coming to you?
Amazing. Because I did I did go on stage in a glittery bright pink jumpsuit.
Oh my
I
God,
think that time it wasn't to this song, but I'm connecting it to that song now.
Okay, this is perfect. But here's what I want you to do. I now want you to think of the challenge that we had, which was long sales process. And now what I want you to see out in the audience, all these people want to start taking and working with you on getting your podcast. And you know what? They don't need a lot of time. They're willing to sign up right now. They are like, tell me how, tell me how. And I want you to keep hearing the power song. You're seeing it. And what every good movie has is they've got that billboard, right? I want you to open and close your eyes, taking an internal picture. So we're doing the selfie thing. Put the camera up with your arm, hold the camera up, take a picture of you when I say click, of that internal you in the pink, emotionally charged. 1, 2, 3, click. Do you have the picture?
I do.
Oh, yeah. And you got a big smile on your face. I love that. So now you've got that picture. We're going to go into step 4. And step 4 is where we create these small inspirational pops. It's like popping the champagne, these bubbles, these pops. And so I want you to tune back into your song, Believe. And I want you to think about what would be the smallest action that you could take to get yourself one step closer to having not a long sales cycle, but a very small one. Think about your song. What could that be? What could you do right now? Success like speed, no delay. So when we're done on this show, what could you do? Think about this right now. What could you do? What would be a pop for you?
To actually ask.
To actually ask.
To actually ask. I probably don't put my offer out enough.
Okay. So what if you decide to actually put an offer out where you're like, hey, sign up today and here is what I'm going to do for you. How does that feel to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so imagine, Karen, that you do 3 pops a day. In a work week, you've done 15. Imagine where you would be with your offer, with people coming into your program. What would that look like? That's where I want you to be going. That's why this idea around these pops, these individual steps to really move you forward becomes so impactful. And this process can be used before you go on a show if you need to elevate. I did the tune-in process right before we got on. And I was like, okay, I want to elevate my energy because I knew you were going to bring it. And then I went through and I have my go-to songs. So I can go through it very quickly. And so thank you. Thank you for, allowing me to do a little coaching of you. But this process is the biggest game changer that I've seen with peak performance. Anybody out there, entrepreneurs that are doing it, they start to leverage this. They leverage it with their kids, being able to up-level yourself. Because what you're doing is you're setting the intention that this is what I want to have happen. And again, all the other things in the world, all the relaunches that are going on around you, this allows you to focus for a short amount of time at an elevated level. So going back to ancient wisdom, law of resonance, which is one level above law of attraction, is that we want to resonate energetically with what we're trying to bring in to our company and our life.
I absolutely love that. I mean, I've always I know that visualization is such a powerful tool, but I'd never really thought about combining it with music. It's so funny that I have different sort of aspects of my life. Somebody put a post on today, and how do you like to work? And I have, well, I won't say her name because she might start up. You know what I'm talking about. If I say play. And so so where I'm at right now, I'm actually set up in a kitchen, and we have the music on when I'm obviously not recording a podcast, because I do, course music uplifts you. As you know, I spent my life in the fitness industry. Why did I love that so much? Part of that is it's down to definitely the music. But I'd never thought of combining that visualization piece with music. And now I'm thinking, yeah, why not? Duh.
Why not?
That's where the power, that is where the power is. So that makes so much. I mean, I'm all about energy. Look, I've even got my little Healy device right here.
I love that. But here's the thing, Karen, you teach people to go on to podcasts, to be guests on podcasts, and to really bring that A game. And for so many people that are doing podcasts, and maybe you have batched them, so you're doing 4 in a day, or maybe you're like, oh, I've got 3, and you're just feeling like energetically low. Or there's something like a relaunch happening in your life, and you're like, how am I going to bring this, like, my best self? Because if you don't tune in and then you come on, and I've got, things going on in my own life, if I bring that, then energetically, that's what I'm putting out. That's what I will receive back.
Thank you for that, because that is so powerful. And it's funny, even like, I'm always going back to what I used to do, but I used to always say, because, if people weren't feeling, or they're feeling down, I would say, I'm so lucky with my work, because when I turn up at the studio, I have to leave all my problems at the door. Nobody wants to know your stuff. And I've got to come in and be there for everybody, to give them the energy.
Totally.
I mean, I get a lot of energy back, and it is all around music. So it's so funny that I suppose I was doing that all my life. And that's probably why I enjoyed it so much. And now that I'm in a different place, in a different relaunch, right, stuck behind a computer, very different world.
Very.
And it just goes to show the importance of bringing all of that back in, and what a difference it can make for you guys listening. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you're in business, and you can be a lot of the time spent behind your computer on your own, yes, it can be difficult to bring that energy and to show up as your authentic self with all of that energy. That is a fantastic tip.
And you being in the fitness area for so long, you understand when you work out, you get endorphins, right? Endorphins, the happy hormones, they kind of flood you. Well, guess what? This 2-minute process gives you those endorphins, and it does so many. I go through this, and it's the coolest thing. I call it the daily dose. And the dose is dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And guess what? Dose is baked into every single step of the tune-in process. It is so powerful. And then, it's kind of like, once you hear it, once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. And so for me, I started to notice, and I first, actually, if you can believe this, the way that this all came to be was because I was driving my teenage daughter, and she was in a really depressed state. And I thought, I got to come up with something quickly. I can't 3HQ her. It's going to take too long. I need to come up with something. And I watched this transformation. And it was because of the idea that there are these happy hormones, and they literally flood you during this process. So anybody can do it. I said, everybody can become a master. It's, you got to try it. And once you start to try it, and once you see what it will do for you, I do it 20 times a day. I do it before, absolutely before every single meeting I'm about to go do. I have on my calendar, a couple minutes before, and I'll just take the breath. I'll start the process, and then I join. And it changes
Brilliant.
everything.
Love that. Fantastic advice. So, and anybody can, like you've just said, anybody can do this, but
Anybody.
why aren't they doing it? What do you think is stopping people from, showing up in their highest possible place?
I think because we're tuning out instead of tuning in. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in the negative loops that are happening in our head that we can't get out of the circle. It's the
Yeah.
loop. And it's kind of like, we talk about the treadmill, we talk about the hamster wheel. And I call it the relaunch roller coaster. You have, okay, a really great quarter for revenue, and then you slam down. You're like, why is this quarter so bad? Then you go back up, then you go back down. And it's like, it's exhausting. It is literally an exhausting process until you break the cycle. And once you break the cycle, and how are you breaking the cycle? You do 1 to 2 minutes of tune in. That breaks the cycle. Then all of a sudden, the only excuse you can give yourself is, and I've had one person, I think I've taken thousands at this point. One person couldn't get past the fact that they were like, well, I don't really have a song. And I said, well, then do like a genre. And I finally was like, I was taking African dance. I finally said, have you ever heard anything in African? You can't not move your body when you hear it. All right. So I played it, and they were so in their head about not having a song. It doesn't matter.
My
Pick
goodness.
any song.
Pick one.
Any song. And that's the thing. Once you just get past the fact, and you heard me at the beginning, who knew woo could be so good for you? All right. It's like, why not? If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling stressed, if you have relaunches going on, why not? What's the worst thing that can happen to you? You listen for, you listen for 20 seconds to a song that makes you feel better. Ha! I've already got you then.
Yeah, let's give it a challenge. It cannot, and I suppose that's why I do. I love my music. I love and it's always high energy dance music. And that's why I love it. What's not to love? Take the challenge. I challenge you that it won't make you feel better, because I know that it will. So I love that. That's great bits of advice, and to fit it in, it doesn't have to be long. At the end of the day, we've got so much at our fingertips. Okay. You could set your phone for a little timer, and actually, I'm gonna test this tomorrow, because what I have found, I'm very much a hyper-focused ADHD person. So I would go all into something and then hit burnout. And more recently, only about 4 months ago, I was introduced to this way of doing spurts, like 25 minutes, full on focused effort. And then even if I think I'm in the flow of it, no, don't keep going, 5-minute break. Now, how brilliant. Then that's the perfect time to add this in and then go back to the 25 minutes. Every time I do this, my whole life, I would say, is so much more productive. I don't hit that wall, which I did before, because I'd be go, hit the wall, and then I don't want to do anything. That has made a big change for me personally. Yeah. So I'm going to add this in and take it to another level.
So what I'm going to ask you to do, all right? Because again, you got to keep going smaller and smaller. And what you said as your pop was that you were going to put something out there. I want it to even be smaller, right? All I want you to do is just on a piece of paper, just say, what would it look like? What are you going to do for yourself? What's it going to look like? And write down 1 or 2 sentences. That could be a pop for today. That's the entire key. But here's what I'm going to make you do. After you do your pop, You're going to go to Instagram, Hilary DeCesare, and you're going to DM me and you're going to say, done. Because part of this whole process is, I always talk about, you plan and then you do, and there's got to be accountability, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I want to do that for you. So come on over there, just say done, and let me help you pop the champagne, figuratively, literally, whatever you need.
Brilliant. I love that. So honestly, that I've loved this conversation. Every time we talk, I love our conversations, Hilary. So for the listeners, they want to, they're like, this sounds good. What should the listeners do next? What would be their next logical step to come and find out about working with you?
So I think, I've just gone through this whole process. We have a free PDF on the process. It has more of the neuroscience in there, and you can get it at tuneinpowertool.com, tuneinpowertool.com. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same thing. Head over to Instagram, Hilary DeCesare, and say, done. DM me and say, done. And let me support you.
That's amazing. What a way to finish. Hilary, thank you so much for your time today. That's been amazing. I can see why you are absolutely doing so much fantastic stuff within your community. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Karen, thank you for having me.
And to the rest of you, I'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.